Alive and Well STL is a presentation of the St. Louis Regional Health Commission and Rare Gem Productions to build a healthier St. Louis. Power up with the positive. Learn more at oneraregem.com. That's ONERAREGEM.com.
Support for Alive and Well STL comes from Beyond Housing, helps entire communities become better places to live. Learn more at beyondhousing.org.
The Regional Health Commission works in partnership with regional health sector advocates and stakeholders to improve healthcare access, reduce health disparities, and improve health outcomes for the uninsured and the underinsured in St. Louis City and County.
Alive and Well STL with Bethany Johnson-Javois, CEO of the St. Louis Integrated Health Network.
Today we are going to continue our conversation about democracy and how our sense of empowerment in a democracy can impact our health, or how a perceived lack of empowerment may have a negative impact on our health.
There's a mindset you have to break out of. That's that avoidance that comes from repeated experiences of trauma, repeated experiences of stress, where you're protecting yourself. But we've got to get to a point where we can be uncomfortable and we aren't protecting ourselves. I understand that there are risks, and I think it's really understanding we can break through these barriers. That's how wealth is created. New ideas, innovation, a great deal can come of that. And, the discomfort only lasts a while. And then it becomes the new normal. St. Louis has to be willing to experience some discomfort to find a new normal.
We'll be right back. Please, as your introduction, create a vision for us for what it means to you today for our democracy to be alive and well in STL.
For our democracy to be alive and well in St. Louis, in my mind, means that everyone feels that they have a voice in the decisions that are made, and that voice is heard, and their input is integrated regardless of their race, ethnicity, their social position, occupation, the locale of their residence, or their age. I think there's a way in which we have allowed our region to be usurped so that only certain voices are given weight and other people are marginalized and to some extent excluded from the discourse on the direction, the values, the growth of the community.
Alive and Well STL.
Hello and thank you for joining us today. I'm Bethany Johnson-Javois, CEO of the St. Louis Integrated Health Network and host of Alive and Well STL, sponsored by the St. Louis Regional Health Commission. During this season of Alive and Well STL, we are lifting up voices and discussing the impact that trauma has on our emotional and physical health. We know that those who experience persistent, toxic stress or traumatic adverse events are less likely to achieve good health. Sometimes this stress is exacerbated by feeling out of control, as if our life circumstances are not ours to create or influence. Today, we will explore how the health of our democracy gives us or takes away from us this sense of control that we need to heal and to become alive and well. We are continuing this conversation today with Dr. Vetta Sanders Thompson, Associate Professor at the George Warren Brown School of Social Work. Dr. Thompson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Good morning. As we talk and think about what it means for our community to be alive and well, I am excited to capture your voice and your perspective given all of your work in the region. And when I say your name, everyone knows your name because of your commitment to St. Louis. Vetta, in your perspective, what are the voices that are privileged and amplified, and what are the voices that seem to remain in the shadows?
We can go back to one of the St. Louis euphemisms and we'll get a clue. And so since I've moved here, probably some 30 years ago, people will ask you, what high school did you attend? Now, when I first moved here, I felt like that's a very odd question. And my response used to be, well, it wouldn't help you because I wasn't born here. Well, that automatically gives you some distance in this region. But what I came to learn was that what high school you attended was a clue to your residence, the location in which you live. And so if you were West County, yes. If you were South County or city, oh, yes, you must have lived in a nicer place. If you mentioned anything North City or North County, there was some skepticism. And then people would proceed to ask you, well, what school and what year did you graduate? Because those were clues to when you lived in perhaps North County or what part of North City and what time. And so it became very apparent that class mattered, but not just class, because then I began to understand how race could be understood and how you could be placed based on where you grew up. And so over time, living in St. Louis, I came to understand what all of these things meant and just how much your occupation, your income, and your race mattered. And if you were African American, the one thing that would always floor me being from the South was the extent to which people would share with me, our African Americans, our Black people never rioted. We never had those demonstrations and protests. Now, I have come to understand and to know that's not entirely correct. There have been protests around civil rights, racial issues in this region. But in their mind, it was nothing like other areas, particularly the larger western and northern cities or anything like the protests in the South. And there was a certain amount of pride in that. So you could understand that, privilege and status dictated how the policies would be formed, and that there was a way in which they managed their people so that they didn't have to deal with those little annoyances that come when there's protests or civil disobedience, or some people feel like, no, I think I want my voice to be heard today.
What you articulate to me is you really bring to light a question that I had about the history of St. Louis. You being an outsider coming in, you didn't get the memo of the script that had been written about where you should live and how you should behave and what you can and can't do and what high school is appropriate or not. So without that script that we found out that was written about where you should live and policies that were legislated to control that, we no longer need that, because based on the questions that you're being asked, we're doing it to ourselves. So thank you for highlighting that point. I'm interested, Vetta, in knowing from you, in a democracy, we have certain tools, and we talked about this: right to assemble, right to vote, free press, free speech, freedom of religion. Those are the hallmarks of our democracy. Tell me, give me your response in terms of the disparity that exists. Are there changes in policy that we need to make to close some of these historical gaps that we're finding is happening?
I study racial identity, ethnic identity, and their impact, particularly their psychological impact. And what's interesting to me, and I always tell people, St. Louis has been probably the catalyst to the questions that I've asked as my sort of career has moved forward. Because there's a way in which there's the individual experience and then there's the collective experience. And so as an individual, I can move, I can acquire an education, I can acquire income, and get some distance from that history, from those disparities. But if the group that serves as my referent, or if the group that society perceives me to be a part of still experiences those disparities, there is a way in which the way institutions and policies are enacted, it still affects me, because if it's not me personally, it could be my spouse, it could be my child, it could be my cousin, my mother, my friends. And so it becomes important to understand. I'll use our policing policies as an example. If the perception is that, okay, there are some crimes which appear in higher frequencies in certain communities, we'll use the African American community as one of those communities, then we must police more often. We must be willing to police harsher that community as a whole, as opposed to looking at the factors that would indicate that perhaps this person or these persons are committing a crime. And so you get policies that say, we'll take a whole population, an entire group of people, and police them as if they are all criminals. Just because there's a slightly different ratio of certain crimes taking place in that community. Mind you, not all crimes are elevated in that community. But if any crime is elevated in that community is policed in that way. And then we wonder why we have so many people arrested, such a high proportion of people who are arrested who actually, we don't find anything. You know, when you look at the data, the largest proportion of those, nothing. They weren't doing anything. There was no reason to stop them to begin with. But it's the result of the policy. And so now those people feel less empowered. They feel marginalized. They feel stigmatized. They cannot live their lives entirely free. They must monitor. They self-monitor because they know I'm being watched. I am subject to things that other people are not subject to. That has a psychological impact. When you have one of those experiences, what my research has shown is you're likely to think about that after the event. And it comes up suddenly. And the re-experiencing will lead you to think about other similar incidents and then the incidents of your friends. And what happens over time with that re-experiencing is you become a little bit more vigilant, a little bit more aroused. When you see police or you see people in authority, you become a little bit more suspicious. Okay, why are they around me? Why are they following me? What are they going to do this time? And over time, what people do in response, that's uncomfortable. And what people will do in response, you begin to restrict. You restrict where you will go. You restrict what you will do. You restrict who you might associate with, who you might talk to. These things matter. They affect the way you live. They affect the quality of life.
And something you said to me, to be alive and well is to be entirely free. So this word freedom, let's talk about that. For populations, for individuals who feel imprisoned without the confinement aspect, but they feel the confinement. What are the tools based on your experience, your research, your perspective that can help empower people within their own ability to be entirely free?
Resilience is the word that comes to mind. People have to take a moment, take care of themselves first of all. And so, we push, healthy lifestyle, get some physical activity, get some sleep, good sleep, eat well, have friends and family, have time for spirituality, stick with your values and your commitments. Basically, look for the ways that you can cope positively, act positively. A part of what this also means is that you have to be able to assess what is your responsibility as an individual, what's the responsibility of the group, to discern where the actions are in a sphere where you have control and can exercise control and where they are not. People who have the ability to discern what they have control over and then to make decisions about actions to take do better than people who feel like everything is just put upon them and they have no control, no ability to change situations anywhere. Collectively, we have to understand what is within our sphere of control and those things that perhaps we have less control over. And then we have to be very organized, systematic, and planful. And then we have to take control where we have control. And we have to understand the things where we might need to pull in additional resources, reach out to other people. And then some things really just are not within control. They're going to happen. But I think those are fewer than the things we have control. We just have to really think through where the controls are.
And I noticed that you mentioned that as part of this process of feeling free, health is a very specific area with which we need to be conscious of and aware of in order to do all the other things that we want to accomplish. So given your own example of individuals who feel empowered to create change, other individuals who feel like they don't have a voice and they're not empowered, have you noticed a trend between the health of that group versus the other group?
Oh, we have pretty clear trends. We know that people who feel empowered, who feel more in control of their lives, one, they're going to take the actions to maintain their health. But two, they're going to act on their environment in ways so that they are more likely to garner the resources they need to be healthy. Because a part of what we know about health is that where you are plays a role in your health. Place matters. The resources you can access that help provide the environment for a healthy lifestyle. Whether you have parks, whether you have safe places to walk, to get exercise, whether you can access healthier foods, whether you can access the health care, the screenings that you need. We know that people who feel in control are likely to engage the system, speak up for themselves, get involved in civic activities in an effort to assure that they and their loved ones have that access. When you don't feel empowered, people tend to feel more helpless, often more hopeless. They don't act on behalf of the group, and they have more difficulty acting on behalf of even their own health. And so then we have to really work to help people feel that they have more efficacy, that they have the skills, they have the knowledge, they have the ability to do some things to protect themselves and to protect those that they love.
You know, if I could paint a picture of you, I envision you as like the marching band with heads held high with their instruments in unison. It's a beautiful picture. And based on that picture, what would it take for St. Louisans to be the equivalent of that marching band?
Well, you know, the one thing that I have always said to people in St. Louis is that there's a mindset you have to break out of. When I moved here, people would tell me you should not attempt to get a particular job because no African-American has ever worked there, or no African-American has held that position. And I would say, well, if you don't try, no one ever will. And you have to break out of that mindset. That's that avoidance that comes from repeated experiences of trauma, repeated experiences of stress, where you're protecting yourself. But we've got to get to a point where we can be uncomfortable and we aren't protecting ourselves. I understand that there are risks, and I was not necessarily comfortable the first time I took a position where there were no other African Americans and it was all day, every day. There was no one like me there. But we were able to move forward, and now that is much less the case. And I think it's really understanding we can break through these barriers. I think it also means that non-minority people who are from the wealthier, more elite of our social strata, also have to be willing to be a bit uncomfortable. When I was hired, people knew that they would have to tolerate someone who would have different ideas, different views, a different way of doing things, and that they might be uncomfortable. They too tolerated that discomfort. Everyone in this community has to be willing to accept and tolerate some discomfort. We are not all going to have the same ideas and opinions, but from that diversity, we can grow. We can find new ideas. That's how wealth is created. New ideas, innovation, a great deal can come of that. And, you know, the discomfort only lasts a while. And then it becomes the new normal. St. Louis has to be willing to experience some discomfort to find a new normal.
What is your personal legacy going to be? Why do you keep fighting so hard? What are you accomplishing? What's the end game here for you?
I kind of adopted St. Louis as my home. There's an impact that I want my work to have that I don't feel it has had.
Okay.
I want to see real change. I want to see a St. Louis where everyone, regardless of race, income, place of residence, has a real opportunity to express their full ability and talents. People thrive when they can contribute. I want a world where people can contribute. You can't do that when people are afraid to interact. You won't hire people from a certain neighborhood, a certain zip code. People in a certain area can't get a really good education. That's the difference that I want to see. I want to see people living full, happy, mentally healthy lives.
Well, I want to thank you for painting your picture of Alive and Well, and for all the work that you've done, and for all those that engage with you. Dr. Thompson, thank you for joining us today, and for all that you've done and all that you will continue to do for at least 100 more years. As we wrap up, do you have anything else that you really want to say to our listeners? Particularly, I'm sensitive to ones that are struggling, that don't feel activated, that cannot find the artist within, that understand these statistics, but don't know how to get from where they are to being able to make a difference because they're one person. Encourage them today. What can they possibly do to help our community be alive and well?
This is the thing that I say to everyone. Everyone, I don't care what walk of life you find yourself, has something to share. You can teach someone something and you can contribute something. We need to all respect the contributions we all bring to this world. We are put here with a purpose. Take a moment, close your eyes, breathe deeply, find your inner peace, listen to that inner voice, and whatever it tells you is your gift to share, be about the work of sharing it. You live that every day. Take a moment, be kind to others, be kind to yourself, and then do your work.
Yeah. Do what you're called to do because you feel that calling. So get in touch with that and start doing it. Do not ask the Lord to guide your steps if you're not willing to move your feet. Well, we've preached, we've talked. I appreciate your time and thank everyone for joining us for another episode of Alive and Well STL. We look so forward to speaking with you next week. For more information about today's program and to become involved in the Alive and Well movement, the smartphone app is Bonfire. So get on the phone and find us, BONFYRE, and search for Alive and Well or visit us online at aliveandwellstl.com. We'll be back again next week.
You are invited to join the conversation. If you, your family, or your organization is interested in talking about how we better the well-being of the region, sign up for more information, join the conversation, log on to aliveandwellstl.com, and let's build a plan on how we can work together and improve our overall health and become alive and well.
We are grateful for your gift of time to this conversation. We encourage you to stay involved and get involved. Visit aliveandwellstl.com to learn more.
Alive and Well STL, the Regional Health Commission with Chief Executive Officer Robert Friend Jr., committed to providing a detailed review of change over the past decade and 14 leading health indicators for the city and county of St. Louis. The first decade review of health status report, an update to building a healthier St. Louis. Discover the narrative, the data, and celebrate the progress already made to improve healthcare access and reduce health disparities in our region. Learn more at STLRHC.org. Alive and Well STL is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.